All right. So before I get into the forecast, there's something I need to address first. Last week was a proper news week. CPI came in hotter than expected, 3.2, about 3.3 from 2.4%. That's like growth. Then on top of that, US Iran ceasefire on the 8th triggered a 16% sell-off of oil in one session, and that the dollar followed. The dollar index is now around 9.6, 9.5-ish, but the British pound against the US dollar nearly closed 2% higher than it was the week before. And so this is all of this, right? Let's go through all of this. And you might be wondering what happened, right? Why it happened and what's the position for this week? Well, as we go through it, you're also going to see the new way I'll be presenting my data. I have moved from Excel and Power BI into Google Sheet and Local Studio. Without further ado, let's get into what we're going to be looking at for this week. So for those of you who have been on my channel, I know you've gotten so used to seeing Power BI on my sheet and Excel. However, I'm still using Excel, but that made of Google, and there's a reason as to why this is happening. I will explain this whenever it happens, but until then, let's just focus on the main content. Now on my screen, what you see right here is similar to what we had in Power BI, but the difference is it's now in Local Studio rather than on Power BI. And what I did here was very similar to what we have there, so it shouldn't be far away from those who have been watching the channel. For those who are new to the channel, this is a dashboard that shows a measurement of all the economic data releases and then gives it a score and tells you the degree bullishness or bearishness a market is. So 50% and above is bullish. The higher it becomes, the more bullish it becomes. 50% and below is bearish. The lower it becomes, the less bullish, or rather the more bearish it becomes for that currency. Looking at into this week, right, the very last set of news we had last week, we have the strongest pair in the last 14 days, or the strongest currency in the last 14 days is the Canadian dollar and the Japanese yen. You can clearly see they are the only two green stands out. Overall, right, overall means every goddamn news released on the surface of the earth has British pound at 67% bullishness. So the rest of them are within the neutral range. Some of them are about to enter into the bearish range, something like the Australian dollar and the euro, most likely running into the bearish range. Now, the key news, right? The key news, this is talking about specific sets of news, something like CPI, NFP, the PPI, just the specific sets of news that are called key news. They are all for this last chart here on the right, meaning just the key news. We have the strongest market being the British pound, then the US dollar and the Japanese yen, and then the weakest market being the European dollar. The rest of them are within the neutral zone. Now, personally, I prefer to mostly look at the last 14 days because the 14 days is literally showing me the latest change in the market. Then I look at the key news before I look at the overall. I hardly even go to look at the overall. My eyes are mostly on the 14 days and the key news releases. Now let's look at the key news on the 14 days. And what you can see right here, just by looking at all this market, or rather all this currency, you can clearly see that it is saying one thing. The Japanese yen is the clearest bullish market you can come into, right? While the European dollar, or sorry, I said European dollar, that's crazy, right? the euro is a weak currency. The New Zealand dollar, on the other hand, seems like it is getting weak faster. If you look at it, the recent 14 days is at 22%, which is bearish, while the key news is 50%, meaning there's a higher tendency for it to keep slipping downwards if it continues down this path of bearish news releases. For the euro, it's already slipped into that path. For the Swiss franc, they are still around the middle. The Canadian dollar seems to it's finally gaining strength in the recent 14 days, meaning it should be going up. The Australian dollar has very similar situation with the European economy, that is euro. The New Zealand dollar has similar economy, while the US dollar, on the other hand, seems to maintain the strength it has had over time. Now, for those of you who might be wondering, how does this translate into individual or rather Forex market pairs? Forex market is made of pairs, right? It's very simple. I already have a pair comparison right here. This place right here, what I do is I measure out all the pairs. Oh, I made a mistake here. Give me a second. I'm going to clean that up. So some of you are wondering what mistake I said I made. Well, I initially wrote pair overall for all of them instead of 14 days and key news. Now, like I said, just like the normal overall news, I like to also look at this with the eyes of the 14 days and the key news specifically. Now, the good thing I love about this Lookout Studio right here is I can simply write bull or rather bullish, and it's going to filter everything on the charts to only the things that are rated as bullish. So as you can see, the bullish markets I have here are the British pound New Zealand dollar, the British pound Australian dollar, the euro New Zealand, the euro Australian dollars, and the Canadian Swiss franc. So this pairs seems to have been gaining fundamentally according to economic data releases in the recent time. While for the key data, it seems like the British pound Australian dollar is the only market where the key data is saying outrightly this is still a bullish market to look out for. And to even make that like absolutely crazy, the overall data, that's the only market that has that specific info. And then I can also come back here and switch it to the bearish market, and I have a lot of markets that ought to be short, or rather I ought to be going short, taking short trades on right now. So with all of this knowledge of fundamental stance in our eye view, let's head into the one place where this all matters, right? The chart. But before we go into the chart, I just want to show you guys one last thing. So you can see I have something called deep dive. This is also, we had used this before to review specific news, the particular sets of news and the news releases and the growth of the currency over time, as well as we have currency deep dive. So you could pick up a particular currency to see, it's not just getting the score, right? The final score makes sense. Oh, it's 40% or it's less than 100%. Why is it like that? Well, if you look at, for example, let's take the Australian dollar here. What we have here is that the overall data, everything related to central bank is at 15%. Everything related to confidence is just like everything you see here. But why is the 14-day score, or rather the last 14 days, bearish, like absolutely bearish on those markets, 22%? It's because, one, they don't have any central bank news. Secondly, the news that even came out, the economic activities and the consumer confidence index. The confidence index is real good. However, the economic activity is real bad. And these are the only two things that came out last week. And the weight of economic activity compared to consumer confidence, or rather confidence index, is different. So there's more weight on the economic activity, and it's not looking good. Compare that with the less weight in the confidence index, which is good. So it just aids it a little bit into, we can see what we have here as the final score, 22%. For the key news has central bank at 50%. All the central bank like bring big news, right? Economic activity at just okay, and then the inflation data at just okay, and all of that amounts to somewhere sitting around the 42% mark. So that's how the entire calculation is done. Now let's head into the charts to see what all of this is going to look like for us. Mind you, we're going to have to keep coming back here to the pairs to inspect for what we may be looking out for this week. Personally, I would have loved to shorten this video by ignoring all the neutrals. So to ignore all the neutrals for me, fastest way to do that is let's head straight for only the bullish markets first. And that way we are able to focus on just the necessary. Now we have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. We're just going to head straight into the chart, and we're going to head straight into CAD against franc. And in the recent week, as you can see, we had a bearish week last week. So I'm starting from the weekly and the bearish week last week. However, we are still poking into an imbalance. Well, the imbalance has not been completely nullified. It was poked into last week, but didn't get the headway was expected. But again, let's look at the entire theory. The entire theory of imbalances is that it could give you a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, but I think that is already being nullified, because you can clearly see that this was the low and it is taken. But this is not how I personally look at the market, right? How I personally look at the market is I like to find supply and demand zones on the weekly or on the monthly, and then head down the daily to 4 hours and then the 1 hour to see what really is happening around those zones. Is the market moving even lower? Is it moving even higher? Or is there a zone where it most likely would take a U-turn? Basically a Quasimodo level. Now let's take a good look at this area right here. Is supposed to be bullish on the weekly, so it's a good demand zone for the weekly. Mind you, the chart said bullish. So we're looking at major bullish signals. So I have another one here for the daily. This is the daily. All of this is actually just imbalances on the daily, or rather indecisional candles. Now we're going to head into the 4 hours where I kind of expect things to really play out. From the weekly, I kind of expect the market to keep coming downwards a little bit, right? Coming downwards towards this 0.56 levels all the way down. It could come down from 0.56 levels, basically the entire 0.56 sevens to 0.562s. Whatever news we see that changes this direction of the markets, meaning we start seeing supply zones taken out of the market, then we'll say it's a good market to trade in. But until then, I personally would prefer this market to fall into my demand zones before I start to see reasons to buy into this market. Personal opinion, right? It's not financial advice, it's just personal opinion. Moving on to the next market, we have the euro against the Australian dollar. So the euro against the Australian dollar, similar situations right here. As you can see on the weekly, we have price edging towards a demand zone, a weekly demand zone. Matter of fact, it's actually already mitigating a weekly demand zone. There was kind of like indecision all around here. And then on the daily, what we see price coming down into the last sets of area, really close to it. This is the 1.64 to 1.62 regions of price level, and we may see price quickly come into it and start to push up, or price may even start pushing up already, because as I can see in the last day, it had a little bit of up move, basically an uptrend. But however, I won't call it an uptrend because I have this clear supply zone here that price really needs to break through. So what will make this a buying opportunity for me is seeing price break through and coming back for this zone for me to buy, for price to go to the upside. And that's basically it. If that doesn't happen, obviously price is going to capitulate even lower. And while capitulating even lower, it may create supply zones, which it would later end up taking. Now, this all still depends. It all still depends on the news release. When we start to see more good news release, the other buyers or other traders in the market, the hedge fund traders, will start to see the market as something that's worth buying into. So they will place their buy orders and we can then make good trades. But apart from that, what else do I see on this chart? Because personally, I love to look for areas where I may see that opportunity, and I look for it in different ways. I look for it using things like Quasimodo level. So what I see right here is, this is a low right here. I don't have like a clear zone to utilize as a Quasimodo level here. Apart from this would have been a really good one. Like right here, this would have been a really good one. Okay, I can see I have this, but I have this lower zone. So I think, and I also have this lower zone. So I'm just going to take the entirety of everything here as a good PY for my Quasimodo level, right? So if I see price, if price actually makes it down to such height, right, at such levels, then I would say it's a credible place to take a buy from. But I'll just be risking like really little amounts of money, aiming for price to come back up to the 1.65 levels. Moving on, we have what's next? Let's see what's next. We have the euro against the New Zealand dollar. Euro against the New Zealand dollar. Let's see what does that have for us. The euro against the New Zealand dollar, euro against the New Zealand dollar. Oh, I even have some trades here. I just so as not to cause distraction, I'm just going to hide off all of that. Hide all. Yeah. No, not all. Hide others actually. Yeah. So let's start with the weekly. Last week we saw similar situations, and I kind of like it when I have a bullish opportunity and I see price returning to a position where I may see a bullish stance to take. And just by looking at this place, I'm already having like perspective that there might be zones, Quasimodo zones around here for me to buy from. Let's just put that in mind. That's a weekly time frame, right? There might be. I'm not saying there is yet. Now, what are my demand zones right here? I have a demand zone sitting right here. This is a weekly demand zone, as you can see. On the daily, what I have on the daily, what I have is a very, very scary chart. But I have a good one right here. I have a very good zone right here. So this is my daily zone. Now, do I see a possible reversal around here? Then, and mind you, I don't just take a reversal because it created a zone. I prefer to take a reversal if there is another untouched zone behind it. For example, like right here, I have this untouched daily zone. So if I have this right behind it, then it's more of a credible Quasimodo level to me. The other ones are more like risk-taking Quasimodo level. Now, like I said, I may be seeing two Quasimodo levels right here, all the way from the weekly. And I think I've explained it before how I see Quasimodo level, but in case you're wondering how to see Quasimodo levels, I'll keep a video up here for you to watch. Now, yes, I kind of have a Quasimodo level right here, as I can see, a ripe one for that matter. I see this Quasimodo level on the 4 hours. This is a 4 hours chance for me to walk into the market and say, okay, there may be buying opportunities for me right in this market. And if you're wondering how I'm saying this, I'm just going to draw the lines out for you guys, right? I'm just going to draw it out for you guys. I have, this is the lowest point all the way from here, right? This is the lowest point all the way from here. This is actually lower than this, as you can see. It's actually lower than this. Now, how does this lower point matter to me? Well, first and foremost, I have the lower high, then the lower low. Now, I have the lower high completely eradicated. Price coming down towards the Quasimodo zone, but didn't touch it, which is what I prefer the most. And then price makes its way to create a higher high. And as you can see, what I have here is the actual Quasimodo pattern. As you can see right here, this is a very, very good Quasimodo pattern. So to me, this is like one good setup, one really good setup. The only problem I have with the setup right now is that should I draw a Fibonacci from the highest point right here to the lowest point right here, right? I'm seeing that price has already found its way into the premium angles. You can see it's gone beyond the 50%, even gone beyond the 61.8%. But it's returning, and I hope it gives me a credible return, right? A credible return. Matter of fact, in its return, it's already creating a possible selling zone right here. This right here is a possible selling zone. Now, I like to say possible because it's not certain. And the only reason I'm going to call this a selling zone is if I find a daily area around it. And as you can see, I do have a daily supply around it. Now, it doesn't make it a selling zone yet. Why? Because I can see prices returning back to the upside. So what will make it a good selling zone for me? It's simple. I have this low, this high to this low, to the high, then to the high that broke through it. Now, what I pray for the most is to see that price doesn't come into this box yet. Price does whatever it does, right? Whatever it wants to do, and blows away first without touching that zone. Do you know what that means for me? I have 2 trades in a row. I have 2 trades in a row. And if you look at what I had here, you can see what I had here was clearly already looking at this zone. You can see I have a selling zone at the top, which is a different one entirely. I won't explain that one in this video because this is just a weekly review. But what I have here is I already have a reason to buy in this market because I already saw everything I need to see in the first place to place a buy in this market. So that to me is just the euro against the New Zealand dollar. Let's move on to the next one without further ado. We have the British pound against the Australian dollar, and we're just going to dive straight into the British pound against the Australian dollar. We're just going to hope. Again, we're looking at the chart hoping to see clear demands and supply zones and clear Quasimodo levels either from the demand zones with a previous demand zone around it, or price created a demand a Quasimodo level in those demand zones when it came back to it and it's about to take off. So again, same principle, same system. Do we have a clear weekly demand zone? Oh yes, we do. We have one right here. We have one right here. This is basically base. They are all bases, right? This is a credible weekly demand zone. You can see price has found its way into it. From the weekly, I'm not seeing a possible Quasimodo. I may see it on the day from the daily already, but I'm not seeing it here. Now, on the daily, what do I have? I have price coming into this area. You may think this is a good Quasimodo, but it is not. It is not. I can see that the shape of a chooch, the change of character is coming up. But price has made its way into deep already. Way into deep for my kind of trading. I can't even use the second style of Quasimodo, which is having price do this first before it breaks the high. And it's already below the necessary point. So I'm not even seeing a possible Quasimodo here for me in the first place. But let's just review the chart and see if we have other opportunities. On the daily, do we have demand zones? Yes, we do. Matter of fact, we have like big as demand zone, like a very, very big, as big as the weekly demand zone. And then on the 4 hours, right, this is where we start to make trades, right? This is where we start to take trades. And just like I said to you, I don't see a clear Quasimodo level. Some people are just going to try to force it, right? They want to force it by saying this is a Quasimodo level to them, right? Some people want to force it and say this is a Quasimodo level. But I don't see this as a good enough pullback to call it a structural liquidity. I prefer it had done this. That would have been a bit more credible. I don't see that as a structural liquidity, in my opinion. I don't see it. It may be good enough, but I don't see it as one. Now, what am I looking out for if I don't see that? Well, there are two ways I trade again. Supply and demand as well as Quasimodo levels. If I don't see Quasimodo level, what I want to see is price start to take out supply zones on the lower time frame, like the 4 hours and the 1 hour. So as you can see, I have a zone here. If I see price start to do things like this, break above, create another one, tear apart the new supply zones, then I could buy into this market, right? But it's going to be much more riskier for me. As my supply and demand has like larger risk and it has a larger risk overall for me to just place into a trade. Now, in these zones, do I see a 1 hour opportunity? I'm not seeing the 4 hour opportunity. I find it difficult that I will see a 1 hour opportunity, but there actually is a 1 hour opportunity, and it's very, very sneaky. You can see it right here. I have this POI right here. However, I personally don't trust this POI until I review it with a higher time frame setup and say, okay, it's credible. All right, now I believe that this POI is worth trading. Why? Because I have a 4 hour demand zone seated at the bottom here. On the daily, do I have a demand zone from the daily zone? Because those are both hourlies. Well, this whole area is a zone. But has price ever been in this range before? And yes, it's been here. Are there zones to it? Oh yes, there are zones to it. As you can see, there are demand zones right here. There's another one. This entire whole space is just base. There's another one right here. So basically what I'm seeing right now is possibly, most possibly, my 1 hour strategy here could work. It could work. There's a higher tendency it will. Now that I'm seeing what I have seen. Sorry, my network is kind of fishy today. But now that I've seen what I've seen, and what did I actually see? Well, it's this. So I have this low that led to this high. This led to this lowest point in the entire chart, this entire area right now, which led to this high. So like I said, I need a credible pullback to call it a support, or rather a structural liquidity. And you can see what I have here is one credible pullback. Not the first one that we had before that was just like a measly 2 candle drop. There could be 2 candle drops too, but it should be visible and credible to the eyes. Like you could instantly just see it and say, yeah, that's it right there. It looks like a very credible drop. Even this one candle on the 1 hour is a credible drop. As you can see, it's a very credible drop. So all I'm waiting for right now is seeing if price returns to this level. And quite frankly, you can see I already have buy limits seated around the zone with a longer stop loss. So I'll just readjust this trade tomorrow to have a tighter move, smaller loss, or rather smaller size risk to the trade. Now let's move on to another market. Another market we have here is what did we just look at? I think we just looked at the British pound Australian dollar. Now we have the British pound New Zealand dollar. And as you can see, mind you, the reason why I'm trusting a buy on the British pound Australian dollar is the fact that you can see across all board, it is bullish. The overall news is bullish. The last 14 days, it is bullish. The key news, it is bullish. That is why I kind of have like faith in that particular market. But moving on, we have British pound against the New Zealand dollar. And what we have here, just head back straight to the weekly. Let's see what the weekly has to say for us. Well, in the weekly, we are touching already on a zone, right? This whole thing is a zone. Why am I not adding this one? Well, this has a very clear body, though there are wicks above and below, but it has clear body, right? Now we already touched into the weekly zone, and it seems like we're seriously pushing out of it. But you know, one big problem I have with this market right now, the daily zone is still far behind. You can see that this is my daily demand. It's still far behind. In fact, on this trade, I am seeing that a Quasimodo has already been utilized in the first place. I can see it way back down here. You can see this is one likely use of the Quasimodo that occurred already down here. This is one that's most likely occurred already. But is anyone most likely going to occur around the spots that we are currently in? Being that we have a demand zone far away, we can't tell, right? Again, we head down to the 4 hours, and one thing I'm seeing is price didn't come back too much. Price came to the weekly. However, it's already negating supply zones. It's already taking out supply zones, and this is quite a tricky market to me. I would not want to jump into it because there's still a lot of downside that is possible. So markets like this are the markets I like to go back into this place and start to look into the critical data. I'm going to go back, look into the New Zealand data. I'm going to look into the US dollar data, sorry, the British pound data, and say, what is the credibility here? I can see that the only push the New Zealand dollar has gotten in the last 14 days is the central bank data releases. But and when I say central bank data release, I don't mean just interest rates. I mean all the news related to central banks. So let's just go back into the deep dive of all the news, and we're going to review the New Zealand dollar specifically. So I'm going to go back to specifically just the New Zealand dollar, and I'm going to select the date range to make sure it's in the recent 14 days, right? In the recent 14 days. In the last 14 days, we're going to apply that metric. And I'm looking for only the central bank related data. And what I can see here is, I'm wondering where the good news is coming from. As you can see, I am wondering where the good news is coming from, because what I'm seeing right here is saying that the central bank data says not so good, including the money supply. It's bearish. Oh, it was an error calculation here, I think. Yep, there was error in the calculation here. The error in the calculation is on this page, but it's not on the other page. So the money supply actually increased. The money supply increased. The difference is positive. I don't know why the scorecard is actually negative, but it seems like every other place captured it correctly. As I can see, I see that the news release shot up from the negative angle down to the positive angle and was just sitting right there for the rest of the 2 weeks. So that is for the New Zealand dollar. Now, for the British pound, what do we see as the main driver of the recent 14 days? Where did that score come from? Okay, you can see it's strongly bullish. There was no confidence news, no employment news. Well, however, they had inflation data as well as central bank and economic activity. I head into the news to see what's data in particular is is this story coming from? Mind you, I'm excluding everything that has to do with the CFTC. That's what you're seeing here on this event center. I'm excluding all the CFTC data releases. And what we have, we're supposed to look at the inflation data, which was good. And as you can see, every single inflation data relating to the British pound came out absolutely outstanding. The high ones, the low ones, the credible ones, and they're all lagging indicators. Obviously, they all have bullish sentiment. As you can see right here, we have the house price index for the month of March. We have the year-over-year saying it was better, the national HPI saying year-over-year was still better, and the month-over-month was also still better. So truly the British pound does have edge over the New Zealand dollar right now. Now let's see, will this news continue? There is a tendency it will. And where is it likely to stop? Well, I don't even see a good supply zone up here. I don't see a good supply zone up here. So personally, I don't want to even take a trade here. I don't even know what to take a trade here for. And if I look down, looking at this 4 hours right now, I can't even see a Quasimodo level. Just like I said before, you can see what I said. There was one Quasimodo level right here. Here it is, right there. There was one that happened right here. We have the Quasimodo level right here. Seeing what price did. As soon as price came in, never took out that low. See how low that low is? It didn't take out the low, and it skyrocketed for the 2.53 risk to reward ratio. Absolutely outstandingly good. But I'm not seeing another one around here. I'm not seeing another one around this zone for me to trade. I'm not seeing anyone. And in the current time where price is doing what it's doing, I hope it does create one. It's most likely creating one already. If this is a zone, then I pray price doesn't instantly come back into it. I pray price does something like this first, then it becomes useful for me to take to the upside. Unless that happens, I don't see a reason to take a trade here. Moving on, we are going to look into the bearish camp right now. We're going to move into the bearish camp because I think we just finished everything bullish, and we've spent a lot of time just looking at just the bullish markets. But let's see what the bearish camp has to say about this. Oh, on the bearish side, we have the British pound against the euro. And we have a lot more bearish markets to deal with today. So let's start with the top of the crown, right? The Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. And basically, you can see I'm completely biased. You can say I'm completely biased. I'm not even looking for the opposite opportunity, right? I'm looking for the opposite opportunity. And what I see right here is I am seeing that we had a strong bullish week, which is quite surprising, right? Quite surprising. The entire thing says it's bearish, though the last 14 days news release says it's bearish. More powers to the Canadian dollar than the Australian dollar, but I don't have it in the key news data anyway. The key news data says it's quite neutral in its opinion. And when I look at the chart, I'm seeing the exact opposite. However, looking back into the past of this same chart, I see that there's no weekly supply zone up here. There is one here though. However, price has broken through that supply zone already. So it's an invalid zone in my opinion, right? It's invalid in my opinion because price hasn't even broken through it completely. So price is just wicking through it already, but it's closed above. I won't call it a clear one. So to me, that's like useless. But let's see what's happening on the daily. On the daily, we had strong close of the week. So I don't have a trading opportunity here in my own opinion. I don't even want to see what's happening on this chart. At this point, moving on to the next chart, we have the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. Let's see. Matter of fact, I think my Australian dollar is just weak all through. So let's go against the Swiss franc. What we have here on the weekly is same situation, a strong move to the upside. However, unlike the other one, right? Unlike the other one, we have two weekly supply zones that have not been completely wrecked. You can see right here, they have not been completely wrecked. So there's like still a bit of opportunity if anything is going to happen. And what I'm seeing right here is I'm seeing right? I'm already seeing reasons to sell, which is right here. I have this high to the low to the high, and I guess you guys already see what I am seeing right now. But this is the problem I have with this right here. I don't have a prior zone to that place that says that is supposed to be useful to me. Oh, I actually do. I actually do have a weekly zone right here that makes it catastrophically beautiful. So I think we have a sell trade up there for me. Personally, for me, right? This is not financial advice. This is how I personally come back to look at markets and see reasons to come into a trade or not. So I personally have a reason to sell. Do I have a trade already sitting down here? No, I don't. Wow, this is beautiful. I love this. I'm liking the fact that I had to review this with you guys. I didn't have a trade here before. So what does this mean to me? Well, to me, what I have here is this. I have this bearish POI to look out for. You can see my bearish POI. And I have this protected high to hope that price is going to respect. Mind you, truly, trading is all about hopes and strategy. This is all I am seeing right there. Placing the sell, stop loss just a little bit above. Take profit at 2.5-ish, around the 2.5-ish mark. So this is the trade I'm going to be placing in this market when the market comes towards this level. It may work, it may not work. There's no assurance to it. There's no assurance in trading anyway, but we're just taking the chances. Again, at the same time, my eyes are seeing things. My eyes are seeing things, right? I'm seeing another possibility right here on the lower time frame. I'm going to have to delete the other one. Oh, okay, it's not an opportunity in my opinion. It's useless. So it's not an opportunity, it's useless because price already came back down so much. You can see that on the 4 hours, except if there's something else I'm not paying attention to, the price is literally within the necessary zone. Yep, it's pointless. It's totally pointless to me. This is no longer useful. Matter of fact, it worked. It worked because you can see it already did the thing it needed to do here. Let me show you again how it works. So if you look right here, we have this low, this high that led to this low. It led to this high, which led to this low. This low is literally equal lows, basically a takeout. It led to this low and led out of it. So basically I have this as a selling one. Now this is a low probability trade. This is a protected zone. And this is your 2 point, let's put it right here. Stop loss just below. And this is it. So as you can see, it may take a while. Matter of fact, not that it took a long time in this case. This was about, whoa, this is almost a month. This is almost a month of dragging its feet. This is 14th of March all the way to 4th of April to achieve the necessary. But it's already happened. I don't leave histories on my chart. I leave trades that I'm about to walk into. That's what I do. So that's my opportunity right there. Moving on to the next market, I have the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Let's see the AUD against the JPY. Again, we start with the weekly. I go straight to the latest market chart. Give us a second. We have poor network sometimes. It happens. And what I have here is nothing short of okay, we are within a zone, a very clear weekly zone for that matter. This is risky. I don't like to trade all-time highs or all-time lows. I don't like to trade those places. I find them very scary personally. I find them very, very scary to trade. And what I see here is no Quasimodo level from the daily time frame. I'm not even seeing an opportunity to trade a QMR move here. However, do we have a daily supply zone? Oh yes, we do, but the daily supply zone has been brutalized, damaged, removed. I don't see a zone all here. This would have been a zone, but it didn't give me a strong move, or rather clear moves out of it. So I don't even have a daily zone here. Do I have a 4 hours opportunity even at all of this? Well, I also don't have a 4 hour opportunity here to trade with. So the only trade I can make in this market is seeing supply zones getting mitigated and broken on the 4 hours. Basically, I'm going to be looking out for zones like this and zones like this. So I see these zones getting violated. Then I would say, okay, I can start selling in this market. So basically, there are some markets where I have to take supply and demand straight up. There are some markets where I don't need to look for supply and demand. I just head straight for my Quasimodo. Now, last of the Australian dollar, we have the Australian dollar against the US dollar, and there is also no key data regarding that. But let's see what it looks like on the chart. And we're going to head straight for the weekly. Booyah. Okay. We are in a, should I call it a gridlock area? Kind of like a gridlock area, in my opinion, right? So this is a complete supply area. And then we're looking at daily zones. And the only daily zone I'm seeing here is here, right? The one I'm seeing here right now is down here, which has been completely violated, as you can see. The only other one is up here, but it has been utilized by this. So generally, I don't have a zone. However, I'm seeing something else, right? I'm seeing this low that leads to this high. Sorry, this high that leads to this low, that led to this high, which has led to this low. But I don't have a structural liquidity. I do have a structural, but it's not structural because price didn't take out this one, so I don't have a structural liquidity. That's on the daily. At the same time, I'm also seeing this low here. Sorry, this high right here. So I'm looking at this two high, and I'm heading into the 4 hours to say, is there a possible opportunity to trade the Quasimodo's level right here? And how do I see it? Well, simple. I'm looking at the very last candle that brought out the extreme drop. I'm taking this whole thing right here. If this is supposed to be a POI, right? If this is supposed to be a POI, has price come into the zone stupidly before? Oh, yes, it did. Right here, as you can see, some people would want to draw this as this, right? Some people want to draw this, ignoring this move backwards. I can't ignore this move backward. If I ignore that move backward, the only opportunity I only have is this. That is if I decide to ignore the move backwards, as you can see, right? If I decide to ignore this first one here, this is the only move I have. And if this move is correct, now this is a trade that has a lower than 50% possibility of working out, right? Lower than 50% possibility of working out based on this, my strategy right here, the strategy I like to use, right? Mind you, I didn't make the strategy up. It's not my own, like it's just the way I know how to use it. So this is what will happen if, again, if you ignore this. But I personally don't like to ignore this because this gives me, as it stands right now, I'm seeing this as a 35% chance of happening. So it's way too low to happen. Kind of risky, cost a lot of money to even make it worse. Like let's look at my account is less than $50. So if I'm putting at 0.01, I am putting $9 on the line. That is roughly 10%. Did I say 10? 20% of the account balance. It's crazy. Is it 20% or 10%? I have a balance of about 90 something dollars now. Yeah, I have $89 now. And I want to put up $9 on the table. I don't trust this trade. Personally, I don't trust that trade. Just me. I'm just going to watch it, paper trade it and see if it works, but I don't trust it. personally. Let's move on to the next market. We have the European market now. We have the euro against the card. The euro against the card in the recent 14 days says look out for bearish opportunities to trail with. It's been going lower, right? And just like every other chart we've been looking at, it seems like it is sitting within a matter of fact, this is a very, very obvious demand supply zone. It's so huge, so big, so many indecisions occurring all in this place that, oh, I have a decisional candle, but it's too small to me to call it a decisional candle. But this is an entire weekly indecision zone, which in my opinion is already a flag that you should be scared of. But on the daily, right, on the daily, I'm seeing a possible opportunity, right, a possible opportunity. I'm seeing one zone here to short from, which price is about to mitigate with, or rather it's already mitigating with. I have this one here, just call this a bearish zone, possible bearish zone, right? And I have the lowest point of it all. So the lowest point of it all is not a friendly one, don't like it much, but let's check out what the 4 hours has to say about this information, right? So on the 4 hours, well, the 4 hours, what I have here is this zone, is this one. So refining it to the 4 hours, this is what I have. Protected high. And why is this even reasonable? Like, how is this a reasonable zone? Well, if you draw out the pattern, right, the pattern, you have this leading to this lowest point, leading to the highest point, leading to this one that led to the structural pull. This is basically a structural liquidity right here, leading to highs or rather lows. And now price is returning into the zone. So there's a high chance that there's a selling opportunity for me within this area. If I should look for, I don't think this is useful anymore. This could go, because it already encompasses all of that. So this is a possible zone. Do I have a trade here? Ooh, luckily I don't even have a trade here too. So this one is much more credible to me. I would call this a 50% chance of happening, 50-50, compared to the other one we just saw, the euro against the, I think that was against the card or so. Now we move into the euro against the Japanese yen. Let's see the euro against the Japanese yen. We have selling opportunities, or we should be looking for shorting opportunities. And I'm looking at this chart right now, and I don't even see a reason to short this chart. If the market is going to go short on it, they're going to go short on it abruptly by themselves. I don't see any reason. I don't see a supply zone that stands to fight it, apart from this high. But I don't see a supply zone. So to me, I'm not just going to take a look at that chart. Now, let's move on to the next one. New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. Let's see NZD card, technical stance. Well, we have a very, this is the monthly, the daily, sorry. On the weekly, we have this entire area to short from. This is a shorting area for me, right? Let's see how that fares into the daily zone. On the daily, this is a shorting area for me. Now, these are supply zones. These are supply zones. Looking at this point, I don't see a Quasimodo level for me on the lower time frame at all. So what I'm just going to be looking for in this chart, there actually is a Quasimodo level on the 4 hours, right? There actually is a Quasimodo level on the 4 hours. But for this 4 hours Quasimodo level to be valuable to me, I need to have a daily supply zone, again, relating to what I'm seeing on this chart, right? And what I have here is, do I have one? Oh, yes, I do. I do have a daily zone right here. So if I see a supply zone behind it, if I see a Quasimodo after that, I see an opportunity. However, the opportunity I'm seeing kind of just dwindled in front of my eyes. It's still there, but it is there. It is there. You can see it is here. It is here. However, there is a high tendency, I'll tell you, to ignore this pullback, right? Why? Because it's not fitting the necessary narrative for us to trade it. But then again, we also have very, very clean moves. As you can see right here, we have clean moves right here. So what does this mean for me? Personally, this means placing my protected zone here. And what is my Quasimodo zone, Quasimodo level? I have it right here. So right there, that is what I have. That is what I see on this chart. I also see the same opportunity, right? The same opportunity right here. Now, when I see this happening, I honestly start to get a bit worried for one reason, right? For one reason. Why am I worried? I'm just going to show you why I said this is here. So a high to a low to a high to a low that led to this structural liquidity. So this is, the first one is looking more like structural liquidity at this point. While the second one is looking more like the real thing. So this is like taking two trades already rather than taking one. You could take one shot at it and say, okay, you're just going to risk everything that has to do with this point. You're just going to risk the whole thing, right? But you're risking too much. You're aiming for way too much. It's going to take you possibly months. It could take days. It could take months before this price movement is achieved, right? That's one aspect. You could also decide to take two separate trades here. So if the first one fails, the second one is your other opportunity. This is the first trade right here. This is another trade right here. Again, both of them using the different necessary levels. And you can see both of these do not require price to move so much compared to this one. So it's all about your appetite. Risk what you feel free for. Personally, I'm going to take a trade there. Maybe I might share it, maybe I might not share it, but until then, let's move on to the Swiss franc against the New Zealand dollar. The NZD Swiss franc. And right off the bat, I already saw something hard over there. And on the weekly, there seems to be no reason to short this, to even come into this market, because the supply zone is so far away. Price already mitigated it already, and price seems like it's going back upwards. The daily, on the other hand, this market is extremely wicked. It's not making moves that are clean. It's making moves that are dangerous, like very dangerous. You can see it's extremely choppy on the daily. So choppy that it ended up creating a demand zone. And this is the kind of thing that will make people say, ooh, it's now time to buy, it's time to buy. There's no clear supply zone to even navigate with. There's no clear supply zone to navigate with. So I don't even see buying or selling opportunities here. But on the 4 hours, you start to see zones. Obviously, at the 4 hours, you start to see it's, oh, this is a zone. Oh, this is a zone. Oh, this is a zone that's been mitigated here. And after that, there's nothing, which is not a good thing. I can't even trade the Quasimodo in this market. Why? Because you can see this high right here, it's already utilized. I don't see anyone I can use except this one right here. This one, but it's been utilized again here. You can see it clearly utilized by this and already delivered. It's already delivered. So this market, I personally don't see a selling opportunity. I don't even see supply and demand opportunity in this market for me. Moving on to the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. Let's see the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. We have the weekly, and I have quite similar frustration going on here. I have this supply zone, or weekly supply zone. This is what we see here. I don't have a weekly supply zone that is extremely close to price, but on the daily, this is a good one. This is a bit clearer than the other one. Well, I had this zone, which has been utilized already, as you can see right here. basically properly utilized, and this ended up giving me its own supply area. So I hope, fingers crossed, right? I hope I see a Quasimodo level right inside there. And I think I may be spotting one already. So let's just draw it out. This may possibly be one. Possibly, right? Possibly. Let's go into the 4 hours and see if we have possible really good opportunities to trade with. And I think we do. I think we do. Let's see. We have a bearish Quasimodo level here. Price never returned to that zone. We have a protected zone right here. And do I have a trade here? Ooh, I do have a trade here already. So that's it. Well placed for a sell. Ooh, it's not there, not there. Well placed for a sell. Fundamentals are saying it's best to be doing this from this market. And I don't even need to run too much when it comes to price, as you can see. There's no need to run too much. It's already falling in line kind of perfectly for us right there. So New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. And last but not least, we have the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. We also have the euro against the US dollar, but we're going to come back to that. So NZDUSD. Starting from the weekly, we're going to review this chart again, just like the same way we reviewed every other chart. And I'm not just liking this already. It is already giving me signs of frustration. Signs, right? I have supply zone sitting up here, way too far from where price currently is. Way too far. I don't have any other one. But another thing I also see here is that we have destroyed a demand zone, closing below it clearly. So price most likely is just coming back. Matter of fact, I lost a lot of money on this particular market. And I lost money because I was like, I don't think it's going to work out. I'm kind of scared of it. Kind of not so scared of it, but kind of scared of it. But there it is. I have a supply zone right here on the daily. I have another supply zone seated right here on the daily. You can see why I kind of grew fear in this market. It has plenty of supply zones behind waiting to be filled. You can see this one has been filled. This one right here just got wicked into, like touched. Price just touched it. It didn't even like work on it properly. It just touched it. So I have zones sitting right above here that most likely going to deal with price. So into the 4 hours, this is why it became hard for me. And this is why personally I'd say the only trade I seem to have here is this. So this is the only selling trade I may take right here. As you can see, this is the only bearish QMR I have. And my eyes are already beginning to see it very instantaneously. How come? Well, when you start to trade one thing over and over and over again, you just become, should I say, built into it. See, this is my entire structural liquidity. This is my price moving downwards even further. And this is it to me. This is basically the only thing I see on this chart right now. And I will place a trade for this instead. Matter of fact, this is a much more credible trade to me than many other trades I've seen today. This is not the most credible, but it's the best credible I've seen yet. And just like that, I have reasons to sell these markets going forward in later days. I'm even going to place this trade. It's a pending order. I hope it goes through. Today is Sunday. My broker is closed off. They may not fill in this trade. I doubt it's going to work through. So it's rejected. Market is closed as usual. But I'm just going to come back into this chart and look at this particular set of trade again later. Now, heading into the last market, we had the one where the key data, the key economic data is what is screaming. The euro against the US dollar is a market you should look into, right? Let's take a good look into the euro against the US dollar. Let's start with the weekly, right? Based on how big this market is. It's a market that so many fingers are into. So many hands are touching it. But the thing is, I actually have a buying opportunity on the 4 hours. Funny enough, I have more of a buy opportunity on the 4 hours. But let's see what the supply area looks like. We have a weekly supply stands right here. So this is a weekly supply area, and price is just about to come into that zone. But on the daily, where we have a daily supply is right here. And this is a daily supply. I would love to have seen another daily supply behind it. This is a daily supply right here. So I would prefer to see a Quasimodo level inside here than to see one here. Why? Because I do not have a daily supply backing this. I have one to back this. I don't have one to back this. But if we go into the 4 hours, what do we see? I don't see an opportunity to short this market, even on both edge with the Quasimodo. I don't see the opportunity. Even let's see if we have one on the 1 hour. And that's the lowest I usually go to. The 1 hour. And market just loaded the price. And even on the 1 hour, I personally do not see the opportunity to take a trade here. Personally, there's a low, high, there's a high, another high. It's just messed up, in my opinion. It's just messed up. I'm seeing an opportunity here, but this messed it up. This whole thing messed it up. There's an opportunity right here, but this messed it up. Let's see. There is no opportunity for me here in this market. All right, so there's no opportunity based on Quasimodo. What am I waiting for? Well, I am waiting for price to start to break its demand zones consecutively. Then I have a trade to take here. For now, this is more like a buy market. Matter of fact, let me just show you the buying opportunity that is sitting right here. We have right here a very clear low. A very clear low. That led to a very clear high. You see how obvious this is? You see how obvious this is? These are the kind of things I like to see. These are the kind of things I like to see. Without even stressing my eyes, if you go up to the 4 hours, or rather the daily 4 hours, whichever one you want to go up to, you're going to see that this is a strong move right here. Sorry, this is a strong move right here. And on the 4 hours, it stands right in line with the one thing that makes it extremely valid. A zone, a very strong 4 hours supply demand zone. So this is what I actually see on this chart. I'm not seeing a selling opportunity. Price may find its way down here, and when the market gives me that possible change signal, I'll take a sell for a little bit of the upside. It's not going to be like extreme much. It's somewhere around here, somewhere around this area. Let me show you. So imagine I place a buy here, stop loss just below the entire area, and you can see what I said. It's not even up to that level. So it's just a small move upwards. And I'm fine with as much profit as I can get. I don't want to push it. So this is it. Last week was filled with a lot of things. This week, we have about 5-6 opportunities that we are going to look at and say, this is going to work out, especially if the fundamental data follows in line with what we are seeing. We would love to capitalize on that and see how it goes. This is the weekly forecast for this week, and there are only few pairs to look out for. I only look at pairs that have like possible moves to make rather than looking at all of them, which takes a longer time. We spent a long time here. It's over an hour. I tell you thank you for watching this video, but again, I will also say trading is a personal movement, right? It's personal, something where you have to learn as you go. So this is not financial advice again. This is me sharing my opinion on what the market is doing based on my calculations of what I see the market doing. Do it at your own risk. Do it at your own discipline. Do it at your own discretion. And also, my dear friends, make sure you do your own check back on it. My calculator could be wrong and I may not know. If you don't check back and drop a comment down there, I will not be able to tell. So do well to just review, retake, and observe again and say, oh, okay, this is correct. Then you can start to trade in that direction or not. Your choice. See you on the next one. Peace.